Right now, we want to bring you breaking news as we await the president's arrival in Phoenix, expected within the next few minutes. Thanks for joining us. I'm Mark Curtis.
And I'm Tram Mai. We are following this story from all angles. And right now, we want to send things out to Team 12's Bram Resnick, who is live at Sky Harbor Airport on the tarmac, waiting for the president to arrive. Bram, what are you hearing out there? When is he expected to touch down?
The plane is a bit delayed. It was supposed to arrive at 11:40. We expect the president to be here within the next 10 to 15 minutes or so. He's coming to visit the Honeywell plant, which happens to be right across the tarmac here at Sky Harbor Airport. I can see it. They're making millions of N95 masks for first responders. The visit really part of the president's effort to show what he's doing to help the nation recover from this pandemic. The president last here in February under very different conditions, a raucous rally at the state fairgrounds. Now the state fairgrounds being used for mass testing. So we'll see the president going to the Honeywell plant once he gets off the plane. You might also see a very different kind of welcome. The White House has required everyone, media included, but anyone who meets the president to get a coronavirus test. Governor Doug Ducey will be greeting the president, we're told, in a familiar way. The governor has had a coronavirus test. Haven't heard word back yet whether it was positive or negative. But the governor will be greeting the president. We're told the president might be wearing a mask. We don't know. We would expect there to be some social distancing involved. So that in itself will be a symbol of the pandemic we're living in right now. Also on the plane with the president, Senator Martha McSally. McSally, like the president, facing a tough election fight in November. She will hope to bask in the glow of whatever the president does and says today, again, about what he's doing with regarding the pandemic. Congresswoman Debbie Lesko of Peoria also on the plane, as well as Republican Paul Gosar of Flagstaff. So a big show of force by Republicans here. Again, the president's first real visit outside the White House since the end of March, and first kind of sort of campaign visits, politics visit, a visit where he's expected to be the president and showing what's happening in our nation right now. He will also be meeting with representatives of 2 Native American tribes to talk about what's being done for them. Some controversy there. Some of the tribes have sued the president and the government, saying they're not getting the billions of dollars allocated for them from the CARES Act fast enough. So lots of mixed messages today as the president arrives. Perhaps the biggest one, today we saw the largest spike in COVID-19 deaths in Arizona since this pandemic began. 33 deaths reported today. Right now we're looking at video of the president leaving Andrews earlier this morning, about 4 hours ago. And now as we look out on the tarmac, we see White House officials, traveling party officials getting ready on the tarmac for the plane. And we see Air Force One making its approach to Sky Harbor right now. So really its landing is just minutes away. Sky Harbor with President Donald Trump. President Donald Trump returning to Phoenix. Last time he was here was in February. A very, very unusual visit by this president.
Bram,
typically he plays to raucous crowds. He feeds off what's going on. Mark, yep.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Go ahead, Mark.
There's been a lot of pushback today.
Yes, I can.
There's been a lot of pushback today. The Trump administration is pushing back against the New York Times report that it obtained a report from the White House saying that we could really see some significant increases. By the way, you're looking at live pictures of Air Force One as it comes in. Significant increases in cases of COVID-19, and we could see up to 3,000 deaths per day up to June 1st. The White House is pushing back hard on that report. Is that something that the president is likely to touch on today?
I think he touched on some of that yesterday, pushing back hard on it then. You know, as we've all come to learn over the last 2-3 months, there are lots of models out there. They are models. They are to be interpreted in a certain way. It's just really hard to know these things. And I'll tell you honestly, as a journalist, it's really sometimes can be hard to judge them one against the other, especially when they're made with such specificity. All I can say, the president a couple days ago did acknowledge there's likely to be a higher death toll than he's acknowledged before. I think 60 to 70,000 or 75,000, higher than what he's acknowledged before. So there is that. As far as the merits of this report, very difficult to know, Mark.
Yeah, except that it is coming from his own White House team. So
it is coming from his own White House team, and there were also reports that the White House came up with a projection a few months ago of far fewer deaths than we're seeing even right now. And Air Force One has now landed, touching down here at Sky Harbor Airport. The president making what I believe to be his 12th visit to Arizona since 2015. He does love coming to Arizona. We were one of his first stops as a candidate, and he's been here over and over. As I said, he was last here in February at the Arizona State Fairgrounds. Packed house, 10, 12, 13,000 people there, a raucous night. At the time, the president said in an interview he believed the worst of the pandemic would be over by April. Here we are in May, and as we know, too sadly, it is not over. He was also coming off a recent acquittal by the Senate. Do you remember that? Seems like ages ago. Well, that was about 2 weeks before that February visit, so the president had that to crow about. Today, again, he'll be going to a Honeywell plant, which is just across the tarmac here from Sky Harbor Airport. In fact, he can drive straight there. The Beast, his limousine, could drive straight there if the Secret Service chose, just going across the tarmac. They've ramped up a mask-making plant, N95 mask-making plant, that's going to make millions of masks over the course of the next 12 months. Arizona has bought 6 million of those masks. City of Los Angeles has bought 24 million of those masks. Coincidentally and unfortunately for Honeywell employees, employees there are in the middle of a furlough. Half the workers there are taking part of a 2-week furlough today. They took one this week, and they took one earlier in either April or March. Honeywell dealing with its own financial issues, the crash of the aerospace industry. This is an aerospace plant. They make engine parts, engines, largely for business aircraft. Here at Sky Harbor, we're surrounded by grounded jets. I look to my left, I see American. I look to my right, I see United and Southwest. A dozen, perhaps 20 jets grounded because of the almost full stop on flying, representative of the collapse of our economy, something the president might address today. Part of this mission, part of this trip, will be speaking about what he's done, but also in particular what he's doing to get the economy going. Mark?
Hey, Bram, I've got a question for you. We know that there's been a lot of precautions for the president as he is traveling during this coronavirus pandemic. Obviously, he hasn't done a whole lot of traveling because of COVID-19, but it just goes to show how special this trip is for him to leave D.C. Talk about some of the testing that's been done to protect the president himself. I mean, even our own Governor Ducey has also underwent some testing, right, before he meets him?
He did. Governor Ducey, the White House put out the message that everybody who meets the president must undergo a coronavirus test. I was told yesterday the governor had his test. As of yesterday, the results still were not in. We are expecting the governor to greet the president today in some fashion. Congresswoman Debbie Lesko, who's on that plane with the president, there was a picture of her sent out to the media this morning. She got an antibody test on Saturday as part of the testing blitz. It came back negative. Congressman Paul Gosar is also on that plane. Don't know how he did, but everybody who meets the president, including those at Honeywell today, should have had and been cleared by a coronavirus test. I've covered a few landings of Air Force One here at Sky Harbor. I can tell you this is the first time I've had my temperature checked. Every member of the media had their temperature checked by the Secret Service. We also have been advised to wear masks. Now, I'm at a very safe distance, social distance to the president today. Although this plane's getting awfully close, I have to tell you. So I'm not wearing my mask on air, but as I deal with my colleagues, I certainly am. And the jet's getting a little loud right now. I may not be able to hear you very well, but Air Force One is coming to a full stop. Mark, Tram.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that the two gentlemen you see there in the foreground, Doug Ducey is on the left, the governor, I can't tell who it is on the right because that person is wearing a mask, but the contingent will now slowly start making their way out to the jet. Steps will be rolled up for the president and everyone else on board Air Force One to disembark. The president will likely make a quick wave, greet the governor. Governor will greet him. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, normally it's a handshake. What kind of a greeting they have at this point with social distancing measures in place. There's a good shot of the governor. Interesting that he's not wearing a mask and the other gentleman is. I wonder if he'll put one on at some point or if he will forego the mask.
Well, the other gentleman is with the White House detail. Might be Secret Service. I'll admit, I'm a bit surprised to see the governor not wearing a mask. We'll have to see what kind of social distancing is in place when he greets the president. The president said before he left Andrews Air Force Base today that it looked like he was going to wear a mask. He is going to a mask plant, so that would be kind of unusual. Now, let's watch, Mark. I'll turn it back to you as we watch Governor Ducey heading up to the steps to welcome President Trump to Arizona for what I believe to be the 12th time in the last 5 years.
Yep, and Bram, I don't know if you can still hear me because I know the jet is very loud, but there is no doubt in my mind that as we transition in whatever form from coronavirus back into the campaign season for 2020, that we will see many, many more trips by Air Force One and President Trump to the Valley as he tries to make sure that he can carry Arizona, a very, very important state for him.
And obviously, since...
Absolutely. The challenge for President...
Go ahead, Bram. Sorry.
I was going to say, obviously, the challenge for President Trump is when will he ever have another rally again? Rallies, those kind of group experiences seem to be the farthest ones away from restarting. Tram?
Well, I was just going to say that, obviously this is a stark contrast, as you mentioned, Bram, to his last visit back on February 19th. Back then the economy was booming. He had his big rally at the Veterans Memorial Coliseum. That was jam-packed. The Democratic presidential race was unsettled. His Senate impeachment trial ended 2 weeks earlier in an acquittal. I mean, obviously things have taken a drastic turn now. We are in the middle of a coronavirus pandemic. Right now in Arizona, there are 9,305 confirmed cases of coronavirus. 395 people have died. More than 30 million claims filed for unemployment benefits across the U.S. Here specifically in Arizona, more than 500,000 Arizonans have lost their jobs in just the past 7 weeks. That's about 7% of the state's population. And just last week alone, 43,000 Arizonans applied for jobless benefits. Now, we should also mention the big reason why the president is here, as we've been talking about, is to visit that Honeywell plant in Phoenix, which is right near Sky Harbor Airport. We should mention that Honeywell is adding 500 new jobs in Phoenix for the manufacturing of these N95 masks and PPE, the personal protection equipment. They're already in the process of recruiting and hiring for these jobs, but it should be interesting to maybe get a glimpse of perhaps what they're doing. I don't know, Bram, if we've got access to what will happen in the plant to see what will be happening in there. But we know that he's also going to be talking to, doing a roundtable discussion with Native Americans at Honeywell, too.
Yeah. A couple of things to add to that, Tram. We can't lose sight of the fact that just yesterday, Governor Ducey flipped the dimmer switch on our economy way up by allowing for the reopening of hair salons, barbers, and then next week, dine-in restaurants. It was a big move, a surprising move, coming the day before the president's visit. I would add that some of the data the governor put out yesterday was incorrect, and I've had that confirmed this morning by the director of the Department of Health Services. So Governor Ducey making a big economic move before the president arrives. I'd add one more thing because I think President Trump is going to be coming out the door any minute. But opinion polls show the nation's governors, including Arizona Governor Doug Ducey, their approval ratings are 10 to 15 points higher than the president's when it comes to handling the coronavirus pandemic. And so You might have the case here where Donald Trump benefits more from Doug Ducey being around him than Doug Ducey benefits from Donald Trump. Tram and Mark?
Yeah, I do think it was a bit surprising, a little unexpected for the governor to come out of the gate yesterday with that big news conference and the big news on the economic front, because last week during his daily briefing, there was a lot of gray area. People still had so many questions. They wanted some specific dates. He couldn't really give it to them, aside from the fact that retail would partially open on Monday, which was yesterday, and there was a little bit more leeway come this Friday. But yesterday, I mean, he came out specifically, black and white answers, that this Friday, all retail can fully reopen. This Friday, all barbershops and all salons can fully reopening, obviously under strict guidelines such as masks, social distancing, things of that nature, reduced capacity. And then starting on Monday, next Monday, restaurants can fully reopen. Again, a lot of details still to hammer out from the restaurant industry, as well as far as how things will change, such as, paper or disposable menus and masks, if that will be all required. Of course, social distancing measures. But that was kind of an unexpected surprise to hear some specific exact dates and what people can expect. But again, given the fact that a lot of businesses are going to be reopening, he still wanted to stress that Arizona is still under the Stay Home, Stay Healthy, and Stay Connected Act up until Monday, May 15th.
Right. Well, look, these are decisions that take in public health, they take in economic issues, which you've been talking about, and they take in politics. And it's hard to ignore the fact that over the weekend, there's some pretty loud rallies against Governor Doug Ducey. There was a recall effort that I can say it's a really, really long shot. You had 2 county sheriffs saying they're not going to enforce his orders. So he's getting pushed back from all sides, including Republican members of the legislature. And you have the president, the undisputed leader of the party, showing up today. And it is hard not to believe that all those things did not weigh into what Governor Ducey did yesterday. And again, I'd also underline what you pointed out at the end. He also announced the stay-at-home order is expected to expire on May 15th. So that light at the end of the tunnel is much closer than any of us, and certainly the models the governor has been using, the projections of cases and deaths and a downturn in cases, much sooner than any of those have projected. So interesting times. Again, as I said at the top, you have to acknowledge those 3 considerations: public health, economic impact, and yes, politics. And back here on the tarmac, we see the beast is lined up waiting for President Trump to come down the stairs. There's a second beast in front of it. They always travel with 2 beasts. That's the nickname for the president's limousine. Motorcade getting in place. I can tell you as I look across the tarmac at the White House press pool, many of them wearing masks. I gotta tell you, a lot of people aren't wearing masks. If I were flying these days, I'd be wearing a mask full time. But social distancing, not that great either.
I think you're right.
I don't know. We are all adapting.
It is interesting, guys, and I'm talking to both Tram and Bram now, that the coronavirus, the great killer globally and, of course, here in America, where we have the most cases in the world right now, has become the political hot potato in the country. The Democrats have tried to politicize it against the president, and the president is trying to tout the great response by the White House and his team in fighting this pandemic.
You're right, and to date, it's been a challenging case for the president to make. He has chosen to let the governors do their own thing. There's no one direction we're heading in. I'll give you a really good example, and it's testing. Here we are, May 4th, May 5th. Every day is Wednesday now, isn't it? And we are the governor yesterday, saying we are going to test all nursing homes, residents and staff. And my response was, what took so long? And one of the things that took so long is testing has not been widely available. And many are, and I'm going to stop because there's the President of the United States, Donald Trump, clapping as he exits Air Force One, and now walking down the stairs, his usual fist salute. Governor Ducey is in the welcoming party. I'm not sure we'll be able to see them meet. The beast is blocking our view.
And Bram, because of the proximity of Honeywell to Sky Harbor, is it likely that he won't even go out on the street and will just stay within the perimeters of the airport and go to a back entrance of Honeywell?
That is very likely, and I believe that's the case. I can tell you, we did see through the beast windows, the president and the governor didn't shake hands. They kind of clenched arms.
Got it.
So no social distancing there. I do not see the president wearing a mask either. And again, the Honeywell plant is right across the tarmac here. I'm guessing maybe about 2 miles away, a 5-minute ride. And there is a back door. Honeywell has a huge aerospace operation that's been there, gosh, about 80 years now. It's slowly grown. Now, of course, they're making masks. So the president can just take a straight shot right there by Secret Service. Do not have to worry about any planes landing right now here at Sky Harbor. And it looks like Governor Ducey is going to get into the limousine with the president. And the Governor Ducey getting into the limo right now with the president to make that short trip over to the Honeywell plant, where we expect the president to take a tour. He will also meet with members of two Native American tribes who have their own issues with the White House and its handling of relief money. In fact, some of the tribes have sued the White House for not dispersing the money as fast as it's supposed to. We're going to watch right now as this caravan begins to leave. Also on the plane with the president were Congresswoman Debbie Lesko of Peoria, Congressman Paul Gosar of Flagstaff, and the president's motorcade now pulling out. They are heading west, which indicates to me they might be taking 24th Street to Air Lane, which goes right behind the plant. Proceeding very slowly.
And Bram, it almost looked as though
two Phoenix PD SUVs.
It almost looked as though Senator Martha McSally got into the beast with them too. Did you see that?
She did. Yeah.
Okay.
You know,
yeah.
I did not. To be honest, I was good. I was concentrating on the president, and I didn't see McSally even get close to it. I was so focused on the president.
She got in. In fact, she's facing the president.
Yeah, and this is a.
And Debbie Lesko
this
came
is a
down.
very, as we said earlier, a very big day for her. Okay, good. Thank you for.
Yeah, we know it's a little difficult.
Okay, so yes, so it looks like they're going. Yeah, and they are. I now have confirmation. The motorcade will go straight across the tarmac on the north runway and go straight to the Honeywell kind of, you can call it a back door on Sky Harbor, which the company's had for years. Yeah, there they go. Yeah, so they're going to take that back door. It goes to Air Lane, which is on the perimeter if they get on the street. But I do believe they have an exit just straight from the airport into a Honeywell plant. We do know that Honeywell converted a warehouse into a manufacturing plant for these N95 masks. City of Phoenix says it helped get all the necessary permits in record time to do this. This was announced at the end of March, and here we are at the very beginning of May, and they started production, I'm told, on Friday at the very end of April. So 1 month to stand up a manufacturing plant for N95 masks. That in itself is remarkable. They are still hiring, nowhere close to maximum production, and we're going to stay with that convoy as it drives along the perimeter of Sky Harbor. You can see that brown weather fence out there. And they're proceeding to the Honeywell plant, which is easily within eyesight of us. Big red Honeywell logo on a beige ochre colored building. And the entire motorcade is going straight there. It is about a 5-minute ride. They have to make a left, and really they're there. Honeywell, again, it is making the N95 masks. That is part of its business line, but it's better known as an industrial company. This plant makes aerospace engines and components. Aerospace industry is in the dumps right now, so they're looking for more business. And the mask business has been booming for them, no surprise. Unfortunately, About half the employees at this plant are on furlough this week, part of a 2 weeks worth of furloughs they're having to take as the company deals with tough times. And now we see the motorcade turning onto the Honeywell grounds.
And Bram, we know that the first
And
N95 mask rolled
yes.
off the line on April 30th. That was ahead of schedule. Again, very impressive to see that huge plant right there transition from airline manufacturing, obviously, to all of these masks and PPE. We know that between this plant here in Phoenix and Rhode Island, they're making some 20 million of these N95 masks. Can you talk about what Honeywell has done to protect its workers, too, from COVID-19 at the plant?
That's a really good question, Tram, and it's one of the reasons I did a story over the weekend on whether Donald Trump would wear a mask. Honeywell's CEO had a conference with Wall Street analysts just last Friday, and he described everything they do. And he said in manufacturing settings, they may check temperatures, they're taking a lot of precautions, and in cases where people can't social distance, they are wearing masks. I expect Honeywell's CEO to be there today, and it's quite likely he will be wearing a mask. So it puts President Trump in an unusual situation, kind of like what Vice President Mike Pence was in early last week when he went to the Mayo Clinic and disregarded their rules to wear masks at all times. And I'm going to step in front of the camera now as the convoy has left the Sky Harbor grounds now right near the Honeywell plant. I'm going to remove my mask now that the president is safely out of sight. I have good distance from my photographer here. And just to finish that thought, Tram, regarding speed, they put this up really fast. Honeywell's chief financial officer said Friday he didn't expect this plant to open until the end of June. And they put it up in 1 month. Usually it takes months to open a plant like this. It is an assembly plant, a mask assembly plant. They are hiring people specifically to do that job for as long as Honeywell decides this is a job worth doing. In other words, as long as the pandemic lasts, and they have a market as huge as it is now for these masks. Arizona, Doug Ducey, is buying 6 million of the masks over the next 12 months. City of Los Angeles, Mayor Eric Garcetti is buying 24 million of the masks. They are in huge demand. And one last thought, we keep hearing these huge numbers about PPEs, and millions sound like a lot. These masks and these PPE, the gowns, the shields, the gloves, they go really fast in a hospital setting, especially when hospitals are dealing with as many COVID-19 cases as they're dealing with today. Tram and Mark?
Yeah, we know that a lot of the medical staff have obviously had to reuse a lot of these masks too and PPE just because there is a shortage. All right, Bram, we thank you so much for your live coverage there. We continue our live team coverage right now with Michael Downa. He is just outside the Honeywell plant with Trump's supporters and protesters who are out there despite the governor's request for people not to assemble. Michael, what's going on?
Well, right now it's just a bunch of supporters. We actually only saw one protester so far today, and almost everyone here is trying to get some sort of glimpse of the president. As you can kind of see behind me, there's the Trump bus. We have a few more people, and actually over the course of the last half hour or so, ever since we saw Air Force One start to land, they've actually started migrating towards Airline Street in order to try and see if they could see the president, get a little bit more view of Air Force One. And when you talked about Governor Ducey's order about trying to make sure that people separate, a lot of the people that we've talked to here, this isn't the first time that they've violated that order. They've actually gone to different rallies, basically pushing for the state to already reopen. In fact, I saw some of the same people I saw on Sunday for the Arizona Reopen rally. Well, they're here as well. Now, the people I was able to talk to today, from the bus to the fire truck, everyone here was saying that they're here for their president. They know they won't be able to be inside like they were last time to watch him speak back in February, but they say it's important for them to support him, even if he won't be able to see them physically.
For him to know that we are here, that we are present, even though we cannot see him physically, we know that he is there, and he has our support.
But I think it's important that people are seeing that even with all this craziness going on, people losing their jobs, that we still have the spirit, we still have the camaraderie, and the team that's going to come together. I think what we need right now is a message of hope and encouragement.
Now, on the inside, Graham touched on a little bit, will be probably more, at least it's scheduled right now, for more than an hour conversation supporting Native Americans. As we know, the Navajo Nation here in Arizona and throughout the Southwest has been hit particularly hard. At last check on Saturday, there's more than 2,300 cases with more than 70 dead. And that's why you'll see Vice President of the Navajo Nation, Myron Lizer, who will be there. And a big focus, like Graham mentioned, will be on the lawsuit that the Navajo Nation and 10 other Native American tribes were a part of, basically trying to make sure that some of the money that was passed in the CARES Act goes directly to tribes and not to for-profit organizations that are partially Native American owned, actually in Alaska. But that's not the only focus. In fact, the Navajo Nation told me that they really want to focus and talk to the president about infrastructure, making sure that they have clean drinking water and access to medical care, to make sure that although things have been bad there so far, that they can start to improve and help reduce what the damage of this pandemic has been so far. Guys?
Okay, Michael Doudna live for us outside of the Honeywell plant, where you can see supporters assembled. They may or may not get a glimpse of the president today. The president, we know, is taking the back way into Honeywell, so I don't know if he'll be passing by where they are, but he will be speaking to employees at Honeywell and, of course, also addressing all of the concerns on the Navajo Nation, which has been especially hard hit. Honeywell now producing those N95 masks en masse for the country. We'll be back and continue our coverage in just a moment.
Now, new details about Arizona's plan to reopen, how soon you'll be able to go to your favorite restaurant and get a long overdue haircut.
Plus, the signature item that's disappearing from the Wendy's menu in the near future, and why this trend could continue.
Plus, Desiree joins us from home. Hi, Desiree, what do you have for us today?
Coming up, the latest trend in quarantine, virtual babysitting. We'll tell you how it works, plus how Valley's sports stars are giving back.
All right, Destry, thank you. The other big story in Arizona right now, we have a clear idea of the timetable for Arizona's gradual reopening following weeks of businesses being closed. This Friday, hair salons and barbershops can reopen as long as they follow strict safety guidelines. And get ready to go out to eat again. In less than 1 week, we will be able to eat in restaurants once again. But open will look a little different. Team 12's William Pitts explains.
It's not like flipping a switch. Some of these places have been closed for 2 months. That's like parking your car for a year and expecting it to start right up. And some of these business owners didn't even know this was coming.
2 days ago, I would have swore we weren't going to open before May 15th.
But Chris Knutson's main attraction salon will be open before that. He's been preparing for a while.
I think my biggest concern is making sure that my staff is safe. And so we've spent the last month securing about a 4-month supply of PPE stuff.
Not all salons are as well prepared. Michelle King rents a station in a salon. She doesn't have anything ready.
It's kind of short notice. Shutting down is one thing, but reopening is another.
But she knows things around the salon will change a lot.
Back in the day, you could just come in. If you're early, you could sit down in the waiting room. You know, you could have friends come.
Back in the day was 2 months ago. Now there probably won't be much of a waiting room. You may stay in your car if you're early.
We're going to balance public health, and we are going to prioritize public health while planning to return stronger.
The governor's office has a long list of guidelines for salons and restaurants, but they boil down to reduced capacity, keeping your distance, sanitizing absolutely everything, and limiting any physical contact with masks and gloves.
We're trying to get the machinery of the restaurants running again.
Andrew Fritz owns the Gladly, Citizen Public House, and Commander Hamburger. Restaurants that took months to plan and open now have to be spun up in days, calling back staff, ordering food, training for the new health guidelines.
It feels a little bit like we're building restaurants from scratch all over again. Things are going to change. The menus are not going to be the same as they were. Certainly the service scape, the way that we service our guests, the way that we interact with our coworkers is going to change.
And just because salons and restaurants can open, that doesn't necessarily mean they will. Some restaurant owners are telling us there's no way they can be ready to open by Monday. They're giving themselves another week and a half at least. William Pitts, 12 News.
Okay, Will, thanks. And just a reminder, we want to answer your questions. We know there's a lot of confusion out there, so post your questions on our 12 News Facebook page, or you can shoot us a text to 602-444-1212. And you can also download the 12 News app for all the facts and not fear on the coronavirus. Well, another big story today. I don't need to tell you, if you've been outside, you know it is pretty hot, and it got hot quickly today. We didn't need to wait until noon or 1 or 2 o'clock today for it to get just really, really warm. Let's check in with 12 News meteorologist Crystal Henderson. And Crystal, how close? I know we have been hearing these rumors about record-setting temperatures. How close are we going to get today?
For today, we'll be spared the extra 5 degrees we would need to take down today's record of 108, but usually we would cut things off at 91 degrees. We had that accomplished before 11 o'clock. 103 is our called for high, putting us 12 degrees above that. Blockbuster high pressure might not allow us to be so lucky tomorrow. All of these cities keeping a close eye on all of these records as they're likely to fall, including that record high of 106 set back in 2018. No wonder 5 million Arizonans are under the gun for this excessive heat tomorrow and Thursday. Plus, we have an extension Friday and Saturday, an excessive heat watch in place for the northwestern edge of the state. So 5 million of your closest friends are looking at above average temperatures that put us 15 degrees above average and more reminiscent of late June, even early July. With that called for high of 107 tomorrow and limited sun, we're near record territory on Thursday too, and we could wind up near record warm low territory by Friday morning as this balmy blitz continues.
All right, Crystal, thank you. Still ahead, when we get back to normal, what will normal be? The likely big changes to pro sports for the near future. Plus, how Cardinals linebacker Jordan Hicks is sending the love to his community during this pandemic.
Welcome back. The COVID-19 outbreak has affected many areas of our lives, including, for many people, their love of sports. And fans are ready to get them back, according to a new survey. Almost 2/3 of sports fans polled by ESPN are in favor of sports returning, even without fans in the stands. Several sports leagues are considering that and other options. 88% of those surveyed said they plan to watch as much sports as they can when games resume. And speaking of that, the NFL is set to announce their schedule this Thursday. Meanwhile, if a pro athlete is stepping up to help those affected by the coronavirus, Arizona Cardinals linebacker Jordan Hicks wanted to make an impact during these times, so he took action. He helped raise $200,000 for his church in Scottsdale, the Impact Church, started by another Cardinals star, Andre Wadsworth. That money is making a big difference. The church was able to provide hundreds of free COVID-19 tests this week, but that's not all. The money he raised has also helped people in need pay bills, including their mortgage. Now to celebrations of students in the Valley and the class of 2020. Karen Williams sent this photo of Chris jumping for joy. He's graduating Mingus Union High School and headed to ASU to study architectural design. Sandra Day O'Connor's Kathy Rexroad is headed up north. She's going to NAU in the fall to study nursing. And Kyle Fairchild is graduating from Dysart High School and is headed to the Air Force. And a shout out to Rachel Smiley, graduating from Window Rock High School. Congratulations. And if you have a special high school senior you want to give a special shout out to, just send us their name, school, and one of your own photos of them to 12news.com/senior shoutouts.
Still ahead, we take your coronavirus questions to the experts to bring you the facts, not fear. Plus, where's the beef is becoming more than just a slogan. The signature item disappearing off Wendy's menus all over the country.